September the 7th. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. If you find yourself in the Orlando area, and let's be honest, doesn't everyone come to Orlando for the House of Mouse? Head over to Coliseum of Comics to get your comic book fix. Be sure to check out their location on East Colonial Drive, where they carry a wide selection of independent comics, including Silverline books. Stop by and don't forget to tell them Silverline sent you. Hey, if you're an independent comic creator looking to get your comic printed, look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our comics and do a fantastic job. They can even print special edition covers. When you reach out to them, be sure to tell them Silverline sent you. Looking for a bold way to boost your business? Advertise with Silverline Comics, reaching readers across the U.S. and around the world. Affordable rates, passionate fans, and national and international exposure, all packed inside thrilling, action-packed comics. All ads must be PG-13, perfect for reaching all ages. Spots are limited. Grab your ad space today and become part of the adventure. Silverline Comics, where adventure lives and your brand thrives. Email us at silverlinepublishingllc@gmail.com for more information. And make mine Silverline.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, Internet. Hello, Dave and Ron.
Hey.
We are That Silverline Show on Tuesday, and you'll notice our host, Tim, is gone for the evening. He has some family stuff that needed to get taken care of quite urgently, so you've got us.
Lucky you.
Right. First, I want to start by saying I was watching our intro and I realized you guys have such great pictures for our intro and whatnot, and mine is like the goofiest looking one there.
Sometimes you need goofy pictures.
Right.
Of course you do. You're right.
I'm pretty sure if I spoke to my phone, I'd look goofy on every single picture I took.
You got to make it fun, Jose. You got to make it fun. This is what it's all about, right?
Having fun, enjoying what we do. Heck yeah.
Yeah. I was, I'm checking out, the internet today, and I'm looking, and I see the icon ad for tonight's show, right, with the theme, and I'd forgotten, what Tim had said last week. So I looked, and it says the long con.
The long con.
I'm like, so what? We're going to be teaching people how to, con people. This is like, this is going to be interesting,
right?
Right?
Let me show you 3-card Monty. Let me show you the 3 acorns.
So actually, right, we're talking about conventions.
Conventions indeed. Yep.
Aha.
Which I think is pretty pretty fitting. I believe Dave just journeyed back from Daytona Beach Comic Con.
Yeah,
San Diego.
Yeah, sorry, San Diego Comic Con.
San Diego,
other coast.
The mother of all cons, the big show in San Diego. Oh man!
And a couple weeks ago, I was at Florida SuperCon, which is the longest convention I've ever been to. 3 days. I mean, to me, that just seems normal. I used to go to Chicago Con every year when I was younger, when it was Wizard World Chicago, and I stayed for all 3 days. This is the first time I tabled for 3 days, and I'm not gonna lie, by Sunday I was doing sketches.
Yeah, San Diego was 5 days.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's up to 5 now. I went in, trying to remember, 1989 and 1990, and then it was 4 days, and it was at the old convention center. It's since moved, right? And at that time, I think attendance was about 60,000 people, right? Which was a hell of a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, what's it now? I think this year was 130,000.
I don't know what the count was. I just know that typically we always look forward to Wednesday, which is preview night, to late start, and it's pretty light and you can go around. This Wednesday felt like it was a Thursday, a general day. There was
Elbow to elbow.
so many people, and that was just the start, and it was still the lowest day. But man, everybody was in full swing, and lines were out the door. So yeah, most of the lines that were there, like for Hasbro and stuff like that, were capped. Even on Wednesday, they were capped, and it was all the way along the side of the building, and there and back. It's like I never see this on Wednesday. Wednesday is usually just pretty calm. It's
Right.
like if you want to go and get your stuff, that's a good day. So I try to make it with some, visit some of the people that I normally like to see that first day. But man, it was crazy.
Tom Mason was on Roland's show Sunday night, right? And he was there, with all those other 130,000 people. And he made a comment which I found absolutely fascinating and not surprising at all, is in the fact that they sold out. I mean, the 130,000 is like capacity, what the fire department says,
Right.
and blah blah blah. So the con was sold out, but they estimate there was still like another 5,000-6,000 people who went just to hang around the freaking convention center, right, in costume plays and whatever, who didn't even get into the hall. That's insane.
That actually is common.
Yeah.
Was it like the club back in the day, back in my youngin' days, going to the club and whatnot? And once somebody leaves, somebody new can come in, or was it?
No, badges are pretty much your badges are determined months before, and it's like they're out, and literally, typically that time when I was going as a non-professional was a window that opened up, and it was usually all days were sold out within an hour. So you are you're kind of in you have to log in before the hour, and then you get into a waiting room, and then it's just a refreshing waiting room of are you going to go into like the store where you can go and you can pick your days and whatever, and you're sitting there watching, and you're like, oh, preview night sold out, Friday sold out, or Saturday, I think it was Saturday first, then Friday typically, then Thursday, then Sunday, because Sunday they don't have a lot of big events, and typically Friday and Saturday are the two big nights where you have your big Hall H, which is huge. I don't even know what the capacity is on that, but you're like way in the back, and you see people that are like this big up in the front with a big huge screen.
That's crazy.
And it's like you can leave. Once you leave, there's no point in coming back in the day, and you can leave to go to the restroom or something like that, but you have to give you little tickets so you can get back in type thing. But most people camp out for that, and it was like we used to go with friends, and we would try to get in, but some people were there at like 8 o'clock the night before, or you show up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're outside waiting to see, and it's like there's a side street next behind the convention center that goes to like Joe's Crab Shack and the pier thing, and you got people that are lined up along that to the pier, and then they come in, and it's like they cross the street, they go, and then they go through this zigzag line, insane, that goes back and forth, like, at least 20 times back and forth, and then that goes through to go into Hall H, and that's, people devote a day to just going into Hall H,
Wow.
or the whole time. So they've tried some things in the past, like wristbands, things like that, to guarantee your place so you're not sitting out there. But I had quite a few nights that I was there with friends, and we tried, and it was just no, it's like you're done. There's just so many people, and once you get in, like I said, you can't just leave and come back. So people just stay there, and they stay there all day. So it's like a mini convention on its own.
Mini convention outside the convention.
Inside, it's
inside.
It's like the entire Hall H, which is the very left side of the convention center.
I would feel like the smallest mouse there. I'm just telling you. I only say that because I felt like that. I went to New York City Comic Con, and when I was at the Cuber School, what we did every year, we had a field trip to New York City Comic Con, and then our third year, we actually got to table there. And on one day, like, we picked a day that we were going to table, and the first, I think I tabled on a Saturday, but the first day we went there, it was probably the most massive convention I've ever been to in my life. And I was just like in awe of just how many people. Like, I've done, like I said, I've gone to Wizard World Chicago, but back in the 90s, early 2000s, I don't feel that it was nearly as big as you walk into, the Javits for New York City, and just the amount of people that were there, and just it was crazy. So, like, I feel that, like, San Diego Comic-Con is just infinitely bigger than that. And just from, like, the pictures I've seen from, like, just hearing Dave talk about it, like, over the couple of years, and like, I would feel like the smallest mouse.
I was trying to look to see if I got a picture of everybody, but I'm not seeing anything. I spent 1 year where I just took picture after picture after picture after picture, and it was like, it's insane. The whole town transforms for this thing.
I believe that.
They run special trolley lines and things like that, and then you've got all the convention center, but then you've got right directly across, you have all kinds of activities and things like that, and the Gaslamp district over there is always packed with people, and you've got Whatnot stuff on farther down, towards the center of the convention, and then you've also got things going on in the hotels.
Yeah.
So, like, handouts and things like that, you have to go to the Marriott to collect them. It's just crazy. And so that's why I went through, and that was kind of in suggesting this. This was obviously something that I suggested. That was the kind of the whole meaning behind the whole long con, because generally you don't go there to go and relax and go do stuff. It's like, and I can say again, I had the same thing happen with WonderCon in Anaheim earlier this year. Is I never once saw Tom Mason. I know, I'm sure he's there, but it's like, no, you don't see people. You kind of, you're filtering through aisles, and everybody's playing this. Unless you're somebody that is tabling there, so it's just chance. We had Rick Offenberger on the show, and like the last two cons I've been wanting to see him, and I never seem to catch him, and trying to find a room that I know he did he was hosting a couple
I was
panels.
gonna say he usually does the panels, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't able to find him.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it's just massive. And what I found, and I'm very grateful to San Diego Comic-Con for, giving, the professional passes and stuff like that. It's awesome, but and it's great to see everything, but it's like there's just so much, and there's a lot of frustration. I see a lot of people that are there to buy the special things, and their tactics some of the resellers and stuff, their tactics are very forward, and it's like a line, like I said, a line will be capped and they'll do it their best to bring the lines down, and then I say, okay, well, we're going to open, and it's like a flood of people come in, and in less than 2 seconds the line is fully overpacked and they're cutting things back. And it's a lot of these people watching, and they're trying to get you to keep the lanes clean, keep moving. Right. They're like, okay, well, just keep circling. So there was one guy at the Hasbro booth that was like, like a shark, just swim this way, come back, swim back, just keep rotating, keep the aisles going, and whatever. And you would find the people were doing that, but then you would find a group of people as it's going like this that's running back and forth above on the line, right up against building kind of a wall, so that your regular people that are trying to get it are not. So I can say that to get into Hasbro, I spent an hour and a half the first day in doing the loop thing. Didn't get in. Second day, I spent another hour and a half, and my wife she's very I don't want to say pushy, but she's very like determined, and she wiggled her way into it, and I was able to get in. But for the entire 5 days, I was continually back and forth on the Topps Marvel booth, just trying to get the one of the covers, a Campbell cover for a swimsuit issue that was only a Topps. And there were so many people that were trying to get the Topps cards and all that. I spent all 5 days, hours, and got 2 people from the end at one point and said, oh, well, we're done. And finally got in line the last day for them to say, no, that one's sold out.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, and like I said, it's just so much. I won't get into it, but I had a minor altercation at the Alex Ross booth.
Oh, Dave. Don't get the cops involved, Dave.
No. It was one of the guards that's guarding it, because he has a gallery. Right in the middle of all this stuff, you've got a gallery, an Alex Ross gallery. And I guess apparently I didn't know it, and my backpack got too close, and this guy sprung out and grabbed me and yanked me and said, "You're out of here." So I guess I did get into it, and it was like that was not great. So just for me, a lot of frustration in the fact that there's so many people, there's so much stuff going through. There literally is so much stuff and so much great stuff to look at. There was a lot of prototypes, announcements, Lego with the Soundwave Transformer was there. The Game Boy was announced there.
That wasn't the Game Boy. I thought you were talking about was it the Switch 2?
No, this was a Lego buildable Game Boy.
Oh, gotcha.
With the cartridge, and the screen had one of those, remember the old comics, the Lentric?
Yep.
Where it's like,
The one with the lines. You can do this.
and you turn it and
Yeah.
whatever. And it was like the screen, the Game Boy screen. So it would be like, the characters and stuff on the screen.
I remember Batman comics had that as a promotional thing where like you do that and it would be like Robin thing.
Lenticular, I think.
Lenticular, yes.
Which is kind of bums me out because I was there. We had just got there, and that's when you guys did the stream for the comics. I'm like, that was my idea too.
We're going to do a part 2 on that one. So,
but sorry, rambling on here a bit, but that was kind of the motivation, because the motivation for the long con was to kind of put the things in perspective, because I haven't done much tabling at all. I remember when I was working working for Marvel, doing the coloring of their books, that I went to an independent show with some other couple of people that were working, and it was kind of a store signing more than anything. And it was very interesting, and it was great to talk to people. And at the time, I guess I kind of put a spoiler out there I shouldn't have. I had brought a piece where that I had rendered of Onslaught, only Onslaught hadn't been officially
announced yet.
Fully. Well, he was hinted at like crazy, and I brought that, and these guys jumped on it. And I'm like, thank God this is just a small store signing.
Right.
I probably shouldn't have done that, but it was very cool to meet the people and how enthusiastic they were about it. And so San Diego, I was also doing at the time. I was working for Marvel 94 to 96, in that range. So I was doing the San Diego Comic Con back then, and yeah, it was quite a bit, like Ron said, quite a bit smaller. But still, it was crazy. But the idea behind this is kind of the views of, there's so much packed in these, and comparing these with the smaller shows. And I know when we talk with Roland, his view is, he loves the smaller shows.
Yep.
He'll take those any day over the bigger ones. And ironically, when I hooked up with Roland, it was at San Diego. It was like the 1 year recently that he actually went, and he hadn't even. The seeds were out there to bring Silverline back, but he was, like, hey, we got, thinking about this and thinking about that and whatever. And but it was very surprising that he was there, because he loves more of the smaller shows. So I wanted to give everyone that's on the call, which is you guys, some of the advantages of what you prefer, as far as big long cons versus small personal. And it could be something as small as hey, I'm doing something at the high school for this, or the local whatever, to more established cons, to larger cons, and big daddy cons, whatever.
Right.
And what's your views? What do you like to do? I'm assuming that that you guys are both love to connect with the fans and talk with stuff. And during the cons, what do you like to do? Is it the connection with the fans? Is it sitting around sketching, or coming up with ideas, things like that? Because even at these shows, you see a lot of people are trying to get commissions in, and all
Right.
this stuff, between scheduling and panels and all that stuff. So that's kind of what I want to do, is just bring the topic of what do you prefer, what do you like, what are advantages. Maybe overall you don't like the big long cons, but there are some cool things that are announced and some cool giveaways and things. So
I mean, to me, the the advantage of long cons hasn't really changed all that much, because I mean, I basically owe my career to San Diego. Okay. I mean, that's a given. I mean, what we're talking about is I started selling scripts in 1977 to small, independent companies, and eventually got a couple of series done with an outfit called Ocean Comics out of Rhode Island, and did a 4-issue miniseries from them called Street Fighter with my good friend Gary Cotta, who I broke into the business with. Gary lived in Honolulu. I'm living in New Hampshire. All right. And I mean, this is all small peanut stuff. Okay. Once these comic books came out, I mean, I got invited to local comic shops to come and, have a signing day and whatever. Okay. So yeah, hey, I'm published. I'm in the business. But I'm aware of San Diego. I know what's going on, but the thought of being there or going there never really enters my mind until one day Gary calls me and says, he says, "You know who Mike Friedrich is?" And I went, "Yeah." I says, "He was a longtime writer for Marvel and DC and an editor for them quite a while." Well, what had happened was, towards the start of the 80s, Mike decided to start an agency for comic book creators, writers, and artists. All right. So someplace, some way, somehow, he found some of the small independent comics that Gary and I had done. And really based on, Gary's artwork, which he really enjoyed, he got back via the publishers to Gary and literally taught Gary into signing on as one of his clients. At which point in their conversations, Gary said, "Well, he says, I've worked with this guy from New Hampshire, and, we've done several things together, and he wants to be a working pro in this business," and blah, blah, blah. Well, so that leads to no sooner I'm talking to Gary, within two days, Mike Friedrich calls me. "Hi, Ron, I'm Mike Friedrich." I said, "Yeah, Gary told me." He says, "I've read the comics you guys did together." And he says, "I like your work." He says, "Would you consider signing on?" He had an outfit. His outfit was called Star Reach Incorporated. And I mean, he was at that time repping people like Tim Sale, Jim Chadwick, Jeff Butler, and a list of people who went on to become really well-known and established professionals in the business. So in that first ever conversation with Mike turns around and goes, "Well, all right, I'll send you some paperwork, contracts to sign, right? And I'm officially going to be your agent." Okay, cool. I've got an agent. All right, I've got an agent. But then he says, so he says, "You're going to be coming out to the San Diego Comic-Con." So Mike his offices were in Santa Barbara. And he says, "I take it you're coming to the San Diego, show." And I said, "Not really." I said, "Thought never really crossed my mind." All right. I says, I work at a General Electric factory. I've got a family and kids and whatever. I just, I'm not going to pack up. And he goes, No, that's wrong. That's wrong-headed thinking." He says, "You got to come out here. You got to come out here. We have to meet, and I'm going to start, networking you. I'm going to bring you around, introduce you to some DC Marvel editors and people, shake hands and whatever." And that was the point. So basically I said, "Well, look, let me talk to my wife and I'll get back to you." And God bless Valerie. Valerie was always supportive from day one. I mean, once I started getting published, she was like, "You got to make this happen. This is your dream." All right. So when she, realized what was going on, Mike's offer, "Come on out and, do the con, whatever." She goes, No. We'll find somebody to babysit the kids. We'll get some time off from work. We're going to San Diego." And that was a done
Nice.
deal. I called Mike back and that was it. 1989, we go to San Diego. Now, one of the linchpins of this story is about 4 months prior to all of this, I had been at the comic shop, my local comic shop one day, and the proprietor, when I walked in, had a table set up and a bunch of people were sitting there autographing comics. So I said, "Hey, Steve, what's going on?" And he says, "Oh, these are some guys from Texas, and they've got their own little comic book company, and they've published a couple titles, and now they're traveling the country, going to comic shops, talking to owners and showing the comics." He says, "Let me introduce you." Well, amongst these 4 or 5 guys was Steve Irwin, right? And Steve's like, we shake hands, right? And we started talking, and Steve's fantastic art, absolutely great artist, almost younger than me by maybe 10 years. But anyways, we hit it off immediately. And in the course of that afternoon, I'm hanging around with these guys. We get to talking about all the great characters that are no longer in comics that it would be great to bring back, right? And the first thing out of Steve's mouth is, somebody ought to do a Green Hornet comic book. And I, really? He goes, "Oh, I love that series. You know, Bruce Lee and, you know, Williams." He says, "You know, you a fan?" I said, "Oh yeah, big time." He said, "Well, what do you say we do it?" So we exchanged telephone numbers, business cards. That's it. They have off on their country tour or whatever. I go home, and for the next 2 or 3 months, Steve and I are in touch, and I write this huge proposal for a new Green Hornet series. Well, you know, it's one thing to write it and thinking I'm going to mail it to DC or Marvel or whatever, but now here we go. We're going to San Diego. Well, sure enough, all of the stuff we packed, there goes that proposal, which I'd wrapped up like the week before. And I stick it in my attache case to bring it with me going, who knows, right? Now we get to San Diego, Valerie and I, we get to the con that day, and I'm thinking it opened on Thursday. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday then. Mm-hmm. So we get there Thursday morning, leave our hotel room. We got there Wednesday, leave our hotel room Thursday morning. We go to the con, we walk into the main hall, and there's this freaking line that's going like 10 miles down the road, right? And I'm looking, and Valerie goes, "We're going to have to wait in line for that?" I said, "I don't know. I've got a badge," because, you know, Mike had helped me register and everything. So I've got a badge that says pro on it. So I said, "Well, let's go in the hall and see." Well, sure enough, we go in the hall, and all the lines are over to just the regular, you know, con fans and whatever. Over to the side, this other table with like nobody in front of it. A couple of girls sitting there, and the big sign says, you know, pro registration. So we walk in front of everybody, show her my badge. She checks me off, and we're in the hall. All right. So, okay. All right. This is cool.
Don't think about the snarky looks that came at you while you were doing it.
Trust me. People like, you know, Ria, if looks could kill. But we go into one of the halls. By then, it was like 2 giant halls on either side of the registration. So we go into the big hall where we were going to meet Mike. Mike shows up. We all, you know, introduce each other and whatever. And that was basically it. He started taking us around the different publishers and people and whatever. And somewheres in that afternoon, we got around to, we met Gary Reed at Caliber Press. I met Roy Thomas for the first time.
Nice.
All right. And really enjoyed, you know, getting to know him and meet him. And then he took us over to Wizards of the Coast, TSR, where I meet this young art director named Jeff Butler. All right. And Jeff and I hit it off, and he's showing me his portfolio. And there's this pinup of this Green Hornet. He did a sexy pinup of a female version of the Green Hornet. So I'm like, another Green Hornet fan? You go, I love that show. I thought that was great. Now, Jeff is like 20, I don't know, he's 24, 25, right out of college. And he's the art director at Wizards of the Coast. All right. I mean, great job and everything else. Anyways, meet him again, shaking hands and whatever. You meet so many people. You see so many people. The big meeting ultimately happens when Mike takes us over to the booth for Now Comics. All right. And you got to remember, this is the late 80s. There were all kinds of new outfits out there. Eclipse was out there. I'd already sold the short story to Eclipse way at the start of my career. First Comics was there, doing all those great comics of theirs. And there was Now Comics, that by then had been around for maybe a little over a year and a half. So get to meet Tony Caputo. And Mike's like, this is Ron Fortier. He's my new client. He's a great writer and blah, blah, blah. Well, Tony turns around, looks at me and goes, what do you write? I said, what do you got?
Right.
What do you got? They had just started doing a comic based on the Terminator series, right? And he turned around and said, well, he goes, here's the deal. He says, we went out and hired this New York Times best-selling science fiction author, right? And basically the guy was so used to writing books, didn't grasp the concept of comics, and was giving them these wordy scripts that were driving Tom Tenney, the artist, up a tree. There was no action. There was no, fast-moving pace or whatever, right? They'd done like 7 or 8 issues, and Tenney was about ready to throw the towel and quit, right? And the author wasn't happy with what was coming out, wasn't his cup of tea, and he was getting ready to bail. So basically, I'm told, hey, if you want the Terminator, when you get back home, send us a couple of plot ideas. If we like him, the job's yours. All right. Okay, there we go, right? So by the end of that first day, it looks like I've got myself a monthly comic, and I'm excited about it. I'm thinking that's great. Again, like I'm saying, the thing is, we met so many people. I can remember after we were done with Mike, we went to lunch. Mike said, why don't you guys just, me and Val, just go enjoy the con. He says, and I'll hook up with you with dinner tonight, because I take all my clients out to dinner. And that meant, like, we met Jim Chadwick, who was doing concrete at that time, met Tim Sale and all these great creators, right? But he says, you and Val, enjoy the show. Well, we went now into the artist room, the big major room with all the creators or whatever. And that thing was packed. You're moving around like you had to, bump into people and get jostled trying to talk to people. So at one point, I'm holding Val's arm and accidentally bumped into this guy who bumped into me, right? And I turn around and look, and he looks at me and goes, oh, hey, I'm sorry. I said, oh, that's okay. And it was Bill Mooney from, Lost in Space.
Yep.
And then he walks off, right? And my wife turns around and goes, is that Bill Mooney? I said, yeah. I said, what do you give me if I start yelling, danger, Will Robinson, danger? Mm-hmm. She goes, I'll slap you silly. She said. So, it was really all about networking. That's what this was really all about for me that first year. All right. And so basically go out with Mike and his other clients, had a great time, really enjoyed it. And the next morning we come back and again, enjoyed the show. Sunday morning, we're leaving. We get back to the hall. We're all packed up and we're going to go see Mike. And Valerie said, why don't you stop at the Now table one last time and thank Tony for giving you the chance to write Terminator. I said, okay, that's a good idea. So we go over, right? We got like in a half hour before we got to get a cab and get to the airport. So sure enough, they're still going full tilt. Tony sees us walking up and, we shake hands and he goes, you're going to send me those ideas for, Terminator 9, right? I said, I've already got some in the works. I'm taking notes last night. I said, yeah, I'll get you something as soon as I get home. He says, all right, so we'll send you a contract. This is how much we're going to pay you per page, all that good stuff, right? I said, wahoo, I'm going to have a monthly comic, right. Just big time in the comic shops, all that. So we're talking, and as we're talking, somehow or other, tell me the fates don't lead you on, right? He starts talking. I said, you started pretty much doing just licensed properties, didn't you? I mean, he's doing Ghostbusters, Speed Racer, Fright Night, all movie things, all right? And Terminator. He says, well, yeah. He says, that's where the bucks are. He says, it frustrates me to no end, though, that there's so many great properties that nobody's doing anymore. I said, yeah, I hear what you're saying. He said, yeah, they're wasted. Nobody's making money off them. Nobody's doing Flash Gordon. Nobody's doing Tarzan. And then he goes, nobody's doing Green Hornet. Boom, light bulb goes off. I go, oh. I take my valise, right? I still got my attaché case with me. I take it out of my bag real quick. I take out that freaking thick proposal and I go, here you go. And he goes, what's that? I said, that's a proposal for a brand new Green Hornet comic book series. Mm-hmm. Now he's flipping through it. He goes, wow. And this thing was like 40 pages long. And for any of you young guys out there listening to this show, that's not the way you do a proposal. That's way too long. I was still a rookie. I made every mistake in the book, but it was 40 pages
like
long.
35 pages too long.
Yeah. So now Tony's looking at this, right? And he goes, man, that's amazing. He says, when I get back to Chicago, which is where they were headquartered now, comics, he says, I'll start looking into who owns the rights. I looked at him. I says, look at the last page. He flips over to the last page. I had the list, the name of the company and the people who own the rights, their address, telephone number, how to reach them. Nice. I looked at him. I said, I do my homework. He goes, I'm going to look into this, right? So that's it. Valerie and I go home. Minute I'm home, back to life as normal. But when I get home at night, I start writing plots for Terminator. I fax them to them. They liked them. That's it. I'm writing Terminator. So I think maybe a month and a half, get home from work one night, get a phone call, and it's Tony. And it was like a Friday night. He goes, hey, Ron. He goes, I'm in New York. I said, okay. He goes, I got a meeting tomorrow with Leisure Concept. And boy, the bell went off. I said, the people who own the Green Hornet. He says, yep. He says, we sent them your proposal. They called us back. They want me to come and talk to them about it. And he says, keep your fingers crossed. So all that following day, it was like pins and needles. He calls me that night and says, we made a deal with him. Now Comics is going to do a Green Hornet comic book, and you're going to be the writer.
Right on.
And that's all because of San Diego.
Yeah, all because of a convention.
Yeah. So the comic came out in the fall. The following year, right, is Mike Friedrich's a happy camper. His clients got 2 new monthly comics, right? And Mike got a piece of this. It wasn't a lot, but he got a piece of whatever I did as my agent. So year number 2, 1990. All right. Now Caputo's saying, you guys got to come back to San Diego because our biggest seller is your Green Hornet comic book. Right. And we're going to have you at the table and signing and big. So now the flip side is I'm not just a rookie walking around and networking, but I'm going with a hit comic on my hands and, going to meet people and help promote it. Thing is, Valerie and I, we get there, we're having as much fun again. Go find the now boots and everything else. And as we're talking, my editor, his name was Kate, I believe, pulls me aside and she goes, I want to warn you ahead of time before you get here, start signing. I said, oh, warn me about what? She goes, there's some guy here who's like ranting and raving about how you destroyed the Green Hornet by giving him a female Kato, and he thinks you brutalized this comic, and he's pissed off at you, and he can't wait for you to get you to sign because he's going to let you know how he feels. Oh, yeah, celebrity's so much fun. You know what I'm saying? So Valerie's looking at me, right? I'm going, we'll play it by ear. Just be as polite as we can. They had me scheduled. They had the time when I was going to be at the table, what hour I was going to be there. And so we did, the floor and stuff. And after lunch, came back in time to do the signing. And sure enough, they had more comics on the table, both Terminator and Green Hornet. And there was already a line at the table, right? So I sat down. The minute I sat down, talked to the first fan there, and nice kid, told me how much he liked the Terminator, what we were doing, autographed his comic, and we started doing this, right? So I think 20 minutes into it, 25 minutes into signing, fans are coming up, talking to them, signing their comics, and everybody's moving. The line's going great and no problems. And sure enough, this one guy comes over to the side and he goes, "You screwed the Green Hornet. Your stuff is junk. It's no good." And this and that. I just turned around, looked at him and says, "Hey, can't please everybody. I'm sorry you don't care for it." "Oh no, blah 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 blah." And he wouldn't stop, blah blah blah. And Valerie just nodded to me. She was sitting behind me. She just leaned over. She goes, "Ron," she goes, "ignore him." And I did. Finally, I had to. I just turned around and kept talking to the fans, signing books and whatever. And he kept spewing his stuff. Nobody paid him any attention until finally he got tired and walked away. And that was it. So it's like, yeah, you like Jose and I were talking before we started recording tonight. Cons are a lot of fun, but you're going to have these kind of experiences just as well too, okay? Because sadly, there are people in this world who take this stuff way too seriously.
Very seriously.
I mean, come on, all right? I mean, they're just comic books, for Pete's sakes, all right? And it was just our version. It's just we were doing something different or whatever, right? But apparently, this guy's entire world focused around fictional characters. And if they weren't done the way, he thought they should be, then that was it. His world was, tipped over. And the way the world is today, the way people are so, easy to offend, all right, and get hot-headed. And we see it, us guys, all, every day across the country, violent acts, all right, people shooting people. I mean, what I saw, someplace in the Midwest a couple days ago, some guy walked into some kind of a town office or something and doused somebody with gasoline, then chased him with a match to light him on fire because he had a problem with, what they'd done with his taxes or something. I mean, I'd hate to see what would happen at a con, okay? If somebody like this showed up, all right, and didn't like what you did to their comic book. Oh, so yeah. So yeah, again, I did the show for 2 years, and that was pretty much it. After that, it was pretty much relegating to doing mid-sized shows. I did a lot of them, and I pretty much stayed local to Boston, Maine, Connecticut, New Jersey, the New England area. And by then, I'd basically been established. And so I started doing, these shows, which were like 1 or 2 day shows that I could drive to. And they became a lot of fun because over time, the next big show I did was when we first moved out here to Colorado. And the year we moved to Colorado, Denver had their first giant media convention. And we got an invitation to go. My friends of ours found out we were living here now, and I got a nice invite for the, con people to go. Well, we went to the show that first year, and there were 24,000 people. All right. We had a good time. It was crowded and fun, but hey, again, fun. The following year, we go back, and the following year, it went from 24,000 to 60,000 in 1 year. And it was a zoo. It was absolutely insane. All the tables are crowded. We had a heavy metal rock and roll band behind us by 10 feet, playing as loud as they could, all during the 2-day con or 3-day con, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I couldn't hear the people talking in front of me in the desk. I had a headache within 20 minutes.
Right.
And Valerie looked at me and she goes, "We're done with big shows. It's just, it's a cattle call. Okay. I much prefer a small show and where you can get intimate and meet the fans, talk to the fans, talk to other professionals and people, that you want to meet yourself and whatever, so there you go."
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm thinking. I was thinking about with these is, the fact that a lot of the shows are more personal, so you get a lot of more connections with the fans. But in San Diego, I see that a lot, in the bigger shows where there are a lot of people moving, professionals connecting, making networks and stuff like that. And if you're in with people, like you had an agent that you were in with that helped you meet all those people, it was it leads to a lot of different opportunities and and relationships with other people. If you're not, then it's there's not a lot of that. It's kind of like, do you get invited for the after hours get-togethers with a professional? I remember the year I was with Roland, that we ended up getting invited to the Boom Studios after hours thing, and that was really nice. And but then since then it's like I haven't really connected with anything, and it's like I feel like I'm that person in day one going, oh yeah, and I kind of attributed kind of myself with I have a nervous thing with people that I that I work that I admire, like for example, I at this last show I went up and was talking with Humberto Ramos. He's pretty popular doing a lot of the Marvel stuff, Fantastic Four and things right now. But I get this sudden nerve, and I'm almost just kind of blabbering or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, remember in the 90s, I worked on some of your stuff, when you first started, and I'm like, X-Men 2099, and he's like, you mean X Nation 2099? And it's like, yeah, I know that.
That's what I meant.
That's what I meant, but my mouth didn't say. I'm like, okay, X-Men 2099. That was actually, the series that Ron Lim did, and I'm like, and so it's I kind of now I'm up against with this guy, and I feel awkward, and the guy's like, I feel like he's like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Right. So I kind of went, yeah, I'm gonna leave now. Thank you. It was nice to meet you. Great stuff. Love your stuff. Bye.
I mean, you could still. I mean, the thing today, and I think you guys would agree with me. All right, today, I mean, there are cons everywhere, all across the country. All right, when the minute spring comes, I mean, mid-size and small shows and whatever, and you can still meet some really great creators at small shows. All right. I mean, I did a show in Portland years ago when I was just starting my career. This was after San Diego, a couple of years after San Diego. And I got invited to Portland, Maine to do like a 2-day show, a Saturday and Sunday show. And one of the other guests was Chuck Dixon, who was just coming into the scene. He was doing Airboy for Eclipse and had just gotten hired by DC to start writing Batman for them. And so we were the two guests. And so I got to spend 2 days, sitting side by side with Chuck Dixon. All right. And we became fast friends. And it's a friendship that's lasted to, now. About 4.5 years ago, Mike Belcher, one of the, premier artists and letterers, for Silverline, for Roland, all right,
Mike
helped put on a show in Kentucky called the Pikeville Comic and Toy Show, right? Okay. So he invites me and Rob Davis to go down there for 1 year, for one weekend. Well, we get down there, and lo and behold, he's not only got Mike Barron there, right, but he's also got Roland and the guys from Silverline up from Florida, all right, and Jim Shooter. And next thing you know, I'm scheduled to be sitting on a panel with Jim Shooter that afternoon. Dave, per your idea, all right? I never met Jim before. I'd seen him at shows, but never had an opportunity to meet him. And knowing, what he'd done, how he started out in this business. I mean, writing for DC at 13 years old. I mean, I'm the total fanboy, right? So that we're sitting down for this little panel where we're going to answer people's questions. And I feel totally not worthy. It's just like, let me sit with the fans and I'll ask you questions. Okay, Jim. And he turns out to be the nicest guy in the world. Absolutely great. I mean, I walked up and he goes, "Oh, Ron?" I said, "Yeah." Shakes my hand, sits down. We started talking about, comics and stuff like that. And did the hour after the hour, he came over to our table, wanted to talk to me and Rob and about the pulp stuff that we're doing with Airship 27. He thought that was wicked cool and whatever. Greatest guy in the world. So, I was personally, saddened a couple of weeks back when he passed away and we heard about it. All right. So yeah, cons are a great opportunity. I mean, just to be a fan, just to go and meet the people that do these things, the writers and artists and the other creators. All right. And to share those experiences with them, definitely.
All right, Jose, we've been neglecting you.
That's no problem. I actually like smaller cons, just like Roland. Maybe because of my lack of experience with bigger cons. When I was younger, I tabled at Wizard World Chicago, which I believe now is like Chicago Comic Con, and that was interesting. Like meeting people. I've never really been a extroverted kind of person. I'm very, very quiet about meeting new people and really talking. Doing conventions with Roland, actually, Daytona Beach Comic Con, a few other local ones here and there, and Pikeville. Like we did Pikeville as well. I really got to like pick a little bit of Hefe's brain and even not just picking at it, but like having him just like pass on wisdom to me about how like to kind of present myself and how to talk about my stuff. And so I've learned doing the smaller shows, kind of doing it's almost like a comedian doing the lounge acts to kind of hone his routine. It's just that I take that as the same principle. Doing the smaller shows, I get to hone my spiel that I would rattle off to people about my table. And I've learned doing that. I'm really not good about talking about myself. Oh yeah, buy my stuff. I'm awesome, right? That's not me. But I love having my portfolio on there so they can see the pages that I worked on and I can talk about my process. I love talking about my techniques, which is nothing new and different under the sun. It really isn't. But the way I look at the work that I do and the way I like go about, working on page by my panel by panels and whatnot, like I love talking about that. And like, I have learned that really does help to encourage like up and coming artists. And I was like, dude, I'm still an up and coming artist. Like don't let my my scary looks fool you. I'm still an up and coming artist. And so, if I can give you some advice to kind of shave off a couple corners that I kept bumping into, then great. And I'll sell books. Yeah, I'll sell commissions. In regards to going to parties, after show stuff, I think I've done it once, maybe twice. Once I know for a fact I did it in Wizard World Chicago because that's the first time I ever met George Perez. And I think it was Mark Wade, I think. I know it was for a fact it's George Perez because I got a picture of him somewhere in the many photos I have floating in our closet. I have a picture of George Perez kissing my friend on his cheek.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great picture. But that and like Wizard World Chicago, I got to sit down and after going to a panel where Brian Polito was talking about LLC Corps, right? LLC companies. I got to go back to his booth and I was like, he goes, "Hey, come back to my booth. I'll talk to you about it." And so he really just sat down while he was like, him and his people were still peddling wares. He really sat down, just kind of broke it down for me, creating an LLC and, working your business in that regard. And just, I've got to go out to eat with Sergio Carrillo, which is like a huge thing for me. Like everyone, I imagine everybody knows who he is. He did the Action Bible and other things, Lone Ranger and whatnot. I got to sit down and have dinner with him and talk to him. And the next following year, like he came and saw us like at the hotel while we were chatting with Roland and whatnot. And he remembered who I was. That's huge for me. You know what I mean? Like as a comic book fan, that's huge. Like, and doing SuperCon a few weeks back, that was interesting too, because I got to go up to find other artists that I knew that were going to be there. I really wanted to introduce myself with, and maybe doing something for them. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how it'll ever work out or how it works out, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I have to put myself out there, and that was different for me. That was new, and that, you know what I mean? And I attribute that to my wife completely. Like even I just a couple weeks ago, I got my application was accepted for New York City Comic Con for this year. And so it'll be the first time I table there on my own. It was the first time I ever tabled there. It was one day when I was with the Cuber School. We got our third year. We got to table at New York City Comic Con, but it was under the school's banner, the school state. Excuse me. So, and I wasn't going to do it. I was like, oh, that's a lot. That's, what I mean? It's far away. And my wife was like, nope, you got accepted. We're going. Like, it's going to happen. Let's do this. Like, so when you're talking about your wife saying, oh, yeah, no, we're going. We'll figure it out. We'll make it happen.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that when Ron was talking about it, I'm like, well, this guy here, he is perfect example of support with his wife and all that. So
I mean, we up moved my entire family, me, my wife, and our 4 kids from Florida to go live in Pennsylvania so I can go to art school in New Jersey.
That's
awesome. If that's not familial support and dedication, I can't even tell you what is then.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, totally. But going to do the small cons, like, I mean, you really kind of like in regards to like your supplies, you kind of have to streamline what you're taking. So, you know what I mean? Even going to far away cons, like going to Miami, yeah, like, I'm in Florida, but that's still a 3-hour drive. You know what I mean? I still got to unpack and pack up. Going to New York, I'm going to have to fly and figure out how I'm going to pack my stuff to take it up there. But like, you kind of have to, from, like I said, from an artistic point of view, from a vendor's point of view, they're great. Like, I love small cons. Big cons are new, but
you have to get out there. I mean, there's just so much material out there. Okay. And I mean, the internet and print on demand and all this good stuff that we see happening in the independent market is exploding like crazy these days.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But I mean, what we do, the 3 of us and our colleagues, all right, is private. We do it by ourselves. All right. I mean, we're locked away in our offices, creating, all right, doing the things that we love to do. And if you don't have an outlet where you can get social about that, all right, it's just going to stay balled up inside. All right. It's to me, the idea of writing comics is a joy. When I finish a script, there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction. When I work with people like Dave and other artists and letterers and colorists and whatever, and I see the finished product, I'm ecstatic. But man, the rush of being at a con and sharing that feeling with fans, like, you're talking about your artwork and talking about your artwork and stuff like that, right? And I love nothing better than talking with fans who are like, where do you get your ideas? And,
right.
What predicated this, all right? And sharing those people, those feelings with them, all right? I mean, it's just that's ultimately what led me, a couple of years ago, like I said, for a couple of years to teach that small class at a local community college on how to write comics, because it's something I love to do. And I love teaching other people to do it.
And to touch on something that's it's reverse for me. And to touch on, what you were saying is very much when you're working with professional, in the professional things, you get the interaction between, me being a colorist, dealing with Ron, dealing with the penciler, dealing with the letter and all that stuff. But it's kind of, you do this stuff and you go, okay, well, this is all created and here you go. But it's not until you get out and you get around the fans that you realize what the reception is and what it meant. So, that's one of the advantages of the cons. And unless you're one of the big people that's marketed part of a company, like KRS will bring different different artists in and signings and all that stuff. On the larger cons, it's typically the smaller cons that you really tend to make that connection and get that feeling for what
it recharges your batteries big time. It really does. Yeah, you can't wait to get after a good show like we're talking, where you meet really great fans, all right, and you get to share and talk and all this good stuff, right? Man, you just can't wait to get back home and get at it again. Okay, it's that social interaction that all of us need.
Well, like I said, at SuperCon, I mean, if you make money, great. you know what I mean? Like if your goal is to make money and you don't make money, you're going to kind of be cranky about it. Right. But go there with other goals other than just finances. Like I think I said this the last time I was on the stream, I had a fellow student. He's currently a student at the Cuber School. My friend Nick, like I met him at Daytona Beach Comic Con, and he just like talked my ear off about like, oh, what about this? And what about this? Asking all kinds of questions about the Cuber School. And then I think it was like that fall, he messaged me like, hey, I got accepted into the Cuber School. I'm like, well, right on, dude. Like I hope you enjoy it. Like, I hope you take some of the stuff I said and, as, not gospel, but at least take it into advisement. And so he came to SuperCon and he's like, I saw your name was on the roster. I wanted to come in so I can find you. Because I want to tell you everything you told me. I took that to heart. And when things started kind of getting rough for me, I kept remembering what you said about just push through. Like it will work. It will get better. The system works. And that's what helped me push like past that to the next level of my art and doing my work. I was like, so he goes, I really appreciate you telling me that. And I remember that I just finished my second year and I've kept that in my head, like both years so far. Every time, I think of like, I might be getting a little rough or whatever, or maybe feeling down on myself. I remember the words that you told me that, you have to, just push and enjoy it and, know that it's the steps, the process you go through school, you know what I mean? It does carry you to the end to be a better artist, to be a better creator. And so like just hearing him like thank me for that, like, I mean, dude, you don't have to thank me, but wow, like to me, that show was a success after that. Like I didn't have to make any more money the rest of the weekend.
Right.
It was that right there. And I turned and looked at my wife. She's like, dude, you got to him. You touched him when, in Daytona. And he's carried that with him. Like, how awesome is that? Like, holy cow. Like it was awesome. So like, yeah, making money's great. Ideally, you want to make your table costs back at bare minimum. But sometimes
it should never be the primary goal. You're there. All right.
Yeah, the networking is amazing.
And this is advice that we're giving to anybody listening to this show tonight. Basically, if you're going to a con, it's your first show, and you're bringing your product, that's great, okay? But hey, don't get mercenary here, okay?
Right.
Go to a show to meet the fans, to meet people like you, and to share experiences, talk. And if you end up selling to them, hey. That's the frosting on the cake, okay? But if you don't, but you met great people and you shared the things you love, that's not a loss. That's a win. That's a huge win. Like I said, we all need that social interaction. I walk away from con, and like I said, basically, yeah, if I made some money, that's great, but wasn't why I went.
Right.
All right? Never.
Is somebody going to, remember the work that I've done? Are they going to enjoy the work that I've done? I've even had a guy who bought issue 1 of Obsoletes and then came back at another show. It's like, hey, I bought your first issue of Obsoletes. Yep. Do you have any more other issues? I was like,
oh, that's a rush.
Fact, I do.
It's always a rush.
He's like, oh, I want to pick those up too. I want to know what's going on.
Yep.
When we did Cat and Mouse Vipers, I've had friends and family that are like, dude, the book, that's awesome. I was like, I just did the inks. Like, I don't pat my back about everything. Like, Angela's an amazing artist. Roland wrote it. Like, there's a whole team behind. He's like, yeah, when's the second one coming out? Because I want to see what happens. I was like, oh man, that's so awesome. But yeah, that makes it all worthwhile to me. Like, you know what I mean?
It does.
Like it's crazy. And then I would say, like, as my last point, that I don't go to conventions to go around and see fans. I don't think I've done that for a while. Plus, my wife told me that you are a professional now. If you're going to table, you're going to go there to work. You're not going to go there just to go, fanboy with people, other creators that you are. You need to be the creator that people want to fanboy over. I was like, I don't think that sounds right, but I think I know what you're saying. But I like one of those small shows I did. I got to meet Dan Fraga, and I love Dan Fraga as an artist. He did stuff for Extreme. He did stuff, his own books and whatnot. Like, he does a lot of not just his own stuff. And I got to actually walk up to him. I was like, dude, I've been following you since California. You know what I mean? When you were living in California, you moved your whole family, you know what I mean, out of there and into the East Coast. Like I've been following you the whole time. Your artwork, the rap videos you do on you know, Facebook Reels and stuff like that. Like I just want to tell you, I'm a huge artist.
Well, hey guys,
Okay.
I'm looking at the time here,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking we've done a good job with this topic.
Well, we'll chalk this one up as a on the plus side, not on the
Right.
minus side. So
Right.
that's good.
Tommy said, "Sorry, I'm late. What are you talking about?" We're talking about conventions, Tommy, and we're getting close to signing off. And I should also show earlier tonight, Pop said, "Hey yo," and yeah, Jose, I'm starting to get art for the art book. Some of it is out of this world. Pops, shh, don't tell nobody. You'll be getting mine in this week, just for the record.
All right, what do you say, guys?
All right.
We have been that Silverline show on Tuesday, and catch our other streams we have on the Wednesday Whammers at 9 o'clock Eastern time, I believe, and
Yes.
Silver Sunday at 8 o'clock, I believe.
There you go. Yeah, you got it.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone, and as we always say, make mine
Make mine
Silverline.
Hi, I'm Dave Dorman. Make mine Silverline.